Welcome, Jon Lebo show. Today's date was October 11th. I lose track. We're back. Another week, another episode. A lot going on this past week. The Red Sox eliminated. Joel Embiid signing a massive deal that I don't agree with. John does. So we'll get to that later. And U.S. soccer sucking. What else is new? Soccer in America not being good. But most importantly, there was another Curb Your Enthusiasm episode on Sunday. John, did you get a chance to watch it?
Yeah, I did, and the Funk Man was back, and I was very, very happy. Like it was a good one. I still think like every single person I've seen on that show has aged like a fine wine. Like it's really remarkable how good
It's only
they've
been
been.
like 7 years.
Yeah, but still, like they're like going like from like late 50s to like mid 60s with that. Like that's a big jump.
No, it is.
That's a big time jump. And like you got the Funk Man, Shalom LD. Like, oh my God. I was did you ever see the one where like Larry pretends like to show up to Funkhauser's like party a day late because he thought it was like a day later?
Oh yeah. And then he gets stuck there with Richard Lewis.
And he gets there, and he's like, oh well, because like this like that trick like worked for him like the day before, so he's like, well, all right, I guess the party's not tonight. I'll leave. Marty's like, wait, you don't have any plans? You're here. Come on in. It's just I love that guy. I love that man.
There's a certain type of skill that Jews have. We can both say this, we're Jewish, with guilt tripping people into stuff and like being very pushy. And I think it's a good thing because I think it's a sign of someone who's a good host. But it's all very, very pushy. And it's another thing I like is when me and my brother were talking about this yesterday when Larry David, he's talking to a guy, I think it's either Funkhauser or someone who's Jewish, and he starts speaking Yiddish, like, and then Larry just doesn't know how to react, so he's like, yeah, like he just like this gibberish. It's like, yeah, like, and it's just it's hilarious, just the little stuff that they do. But yeah, it's it's not like the best season ever, but it's Curb Your Enthusiasm. So
yeah,
I'm happy it's back.
2 episodes in,
Yeah, and it was a decent episode. It was pretty funny. I like the first one better personally, but all right. Couple things happening this past weekend. The Red Sox getting eliminated. I had the pleasure of going to both game 3 and 4 of the ALDS.
How much did that cost you?
So the first game cost me about $81, and I sat center field. Monday, it was a Monday 1 o'clock game for game 4. And that's when I recorded Colin in my other podcast. And I was in Wellesley, and my co-host Alex Barth looks up the cost of the tickets. He's like, it's $30. We can pay $30 to go. We're like, why wouldn't we do that? We paid $30, went there. We sat 12 rows. I counted 12 rows behind the Red Sox on deck circle for the entire game. We just got there. We sat down, probably $800 tickets, secondary market value, and no one came. And we just had these unbelievable seats for the entire game. It was nuts. It was an amazing game. They lost in a horrible fashion, but I got to see Craig Kimbrell pitch. I saw Chris Sale pitch. I saw Justin Verlander pitch, and it was a lot. It was a playoff atmosphere. It was unbelievable. First time I've been to a playoff game was Sunday. Second time was obviously Monday, and it was just unbelievable. It was everything I hoped it would be. So yes, I would have made sure to get some tickets. That's not the case. Red Sox lost. They lost 5-4 on Monday to get eliminated from the playoffs. The Houston Astros advanced to the ALCS. They're playing the winner of tonight's game. We're recording this on Wednesday between the Indians and the Yankees for game 5. But more importantly, John Farrell was fired. That was announced literally about an hour ago that John Farrell got the boot from as the Red Sox manager. And I think most Sox fans are saying this is long overdue. And the reality is, if he had won game 4, he would probably still be in Boston right now. But it's the second straight year that his team lost in 4 or less games. They hadn't done much in the playoffs since 2013 when they won it. And John Farrell seemed to have lost the clubhouse a little bit this season. So this is not a shocker to me by any stretch. This is something that was long overdue. I'm more at this point intrigued on how they will go about filling this position, who they will talk to, who's going to be the people of interest, and hopefully whoever they get is going to be a better in-game manager and a better, clubhouse leader than what John Farrell was.
I feel like it's just more like there's deeper roots to them these last few years, them like early exits. I feel like it's not all him because didn't he showed potential. He won a World Series in 2013.
Yeah, the difference.
Like he knows how to manage.
Not really. The difference between that 2013 team and the past couple of years is in 2013 you had seasoned veterans. You had Shane Victorino, you had Mike Napoli, John Lackey, John Lester. You had all these veterans on this team who were great clubhouse guys. Johnny Gomes, even you can count, and obviously David Ortiz. The past 2 years, you had David Ortiz. That's about it. The thing that we learned about this year's Red Sox team is they have zero leadership in regard to players. Dustin Pedroia, this was probably the most legacy tainting season of his career, not because of what he did on the field, but because of how he handled himself off the field. I think he exposed himself as being someone who's not really a great leader, who works hard, yes, but he's not really a rah guy. His lead by example effect doesn't really rub off anymore. And besides him, who do you got? Chris Sale. He's not really a vocal guy. David Price, who's been the clubhouse leader, is a bit of a dipshit, and he's anti-media. You can go back to the Machado thing when Dustin Pedroia was pointing at the Red Sox manager saying that was them. It wasn't me when they threw at Machado. You don't do that. You ride or die with your team. You can also point at when Price and Eckersley went at it on the team plane. There were a number of players who were applauding what David Price was doing to Dennis Eckersley, which was ridiculous. One of those players was Dustin Pedroia. That was the guy who was supposed to be your rock on the team this year. He exposed himself as someone who really wasn't that at all. He was kind of deceptive in a way. He's someone who works hard, but doesn't hold his teammates to the same standard. John Farrell was not enough of a leader to kind of rein it in. And you had a clubhouse that was all over the place. He's not a good in-game manager either. There's no strengths with this guy.
Okay, but the change of culture that'll come with a new manager, do you think that's enough to get this team back to the World Series? Like, there's clearly like other issues, right?
Yeah, obviously. It's a team culture thing. So they're not going to just if they just bring in another manager and keep this roster as is, they're going to have problems next year as well. That doesn't mean that Farrell is not to blame. He is absolutely to blame. Because he has been there. He has in a way contributed to the way the culture on this team has transpired. So I think they need to get rid of some guys. I wouldn't be shocked if Dustin Pedroia isn't a part of the future for this team. He's someone who, he's injury prone. He missed a lot of time this year. He missed a lot of time last year. It's hard for him to stay in the field. It's hard for him to play second base every day. That's his strength. He's a really good defensive second baseman, one of the best in the league, still at 34 years old. He's getting older. He's not producing like he used to. He doesn't have the same effect as a leader as he used to. I wouldn't be shocked if they parted ways with him. I don't think they will because John Henry's more about, players' marketability than he is their talent. And the reality is Dustin Pedroia is still an extremely marketable player, and he's still a fan favorite for many. But I wouldn't be surprised if you see guys like Xander Bogaerts or Jackie Bradley Jr. get traded. I wouldn't be surprised if they go after names like JD Martinez, who will be a free agent. They go after Giancarlo Stanton. I don't think they're going to add much to their
another outfielder.
Well, they need another big bat. Their biggest problem this year was power hitting. They're by far the worst power hitting team in the MLB. So they need some more power. And the problem is, it's not like they don't have the talent. This is the most frustrating part of this team. This is where John Farrell's blame comes into play. They had the talent on this team to be one of the best teams in the league. They won 93 games, but Hanley Ramirez underperformed. Mookie Betts was good, but not as good as he could be. Xander Bogaerts has been one of the biggest disappointments in Boston the past 3 years. And Jackie Bradley Jr. is one of the most inconsistent players in the MLB, let alone on the Red Sox. So when you have all these guys who can't consistently perform, who haven't been contributing members of this team, like they should be, that goes on the manager, but it's also your players just underperforming. It's everyone. When I say this was the most unlikable team in my lifetime in Boston, I'm not lying. Like they really are. It's because of they're unlikable, and they thought the media was an enemy when the reality is the reason the media was against them is because they all were underperforming. That's essentially it. That starts at the top with John Farrell. It can even start with Dombrowski, but I don't even blame Dombrowski. Dave Dombrowski, the president of baseball operations, is someone who Uh, got a lot of really good assets on this team. He brought in Chris Sale. He brought in Craig Kimbrell. He brought up Devers, kept him on the team, thank God. And Carson Smith, Tyler Thornburg didn't work out, but the bullpen would have been very good. I don't think it's necessarily his fault. I think it's the player's fault underperforming and the manager's fault. They got rid of the manager. There's still moves to be made. I'm intrigued what those moves will be. I think JBJ, Bogarts, one of those two will be gone by the end of by the end of the offseason. And who knows who's going to be in the Red Sox clubhouse? It could be Jason Varitek, could be Alex Cora, could be any.
I think it'll be good. I think it's a good like change of culture. You know, like they'll have someone else in there, like someone else like running things a different way. You know, they'll make some roster moves. You know, maybe bring in some more veteran leadership. And I mean, like the Red Sox make adjustments. Like, look, Houston's the better team. That's just what it came down to. Like the Red Sox made it very competitive for them. And I don't think that series particularly was too much on Farrell based on what I saw. But at the same time, like I think they're due for a change. Like since 2013, this team hasn't made it past the ALDS, excuse me. So yeah, I mean, like there's high expectations in Boston. When you win 3 World Series in 10 years, you're gonna have extremely high expectations. Like if you don't win a World Series, the season's a disappointment for the Red Sox in my eyes. So yeah, like that's just how they should look at it. They have those expectations for their team, and that's it. But Houston, man, they looked really good. Like they are a really well-rounded team. They have the best middle infield in baseball, in my opinion. Like, what do you think? You think they're making it to the World Series? You think they can?
You know what? I don't know. They're one of the best teams in the MLB. I'm hoping.
It's so tough to predict that shit, you know? Like, it's so tough. Like, you don't know. Like, you say, you know, like, but, like, in the playoffs, weaknesses are exposed. Like, whatever team's strengths are, like, who knows if they'll actually, like, perform well, you know? Like, it's tough.
I'd say they're very evenly matched teams. I think the Astros have an unbelievable lineup, and they have they're just super well-rounded. That pitching staff, you have Keuchel, you have Verlander, you have all these guys on this starting rotation who have been really good for this team. And the lineup, Correa, Altuve, Springer, you go down the list, they can perform top to bottom. The Indians, they have the edge managerially and in their bullpen, and they still have a really good rotation too. I think that would be an unbelievable series. I tweeted this after Game 1 of the ALDS when the Red Sox lost. I said, "Don't get me wrong, I'm rooting for the Red Sox, but an Indians Astros ALCS would be by far the most entertaining."
It would, yeah, but it would get like by far like it would be worse for ratings, like by far.
I don't think so.
Dude, come on, Red Sox.
Yankees Red Sox is gonna be more. Yeah, obviously, Yankees Red Sox will be a bigger draw. I think that's what the MLB was hoping.
Dude, you can't. You got to admit, like Red Sox Indians would be way better for ratings than Indians Astros.
Yeah, I mean, who cares though? I'm looking for good baseball. The best baseball will be would be Indians Astros. Those are the two best.
Everything's about you.
Those are the two best teams in the AL. So I look at that. I'm hoping that the Indians win tonight for other reasons, beyond just the matchup. But that would be an incredibly entertaining series. That would be two of the actual best teams, like the clear-cut best teams in the AL, going at it. And now that the Red Sox are out, I hope the Yankees do not win. That would be brutal, because the Yankees Twitter. And yeah, I'm hoping that's the case. They're both good teams. Who would I pick out of those two? It'd be tough. I don't know.
I think I'd go Houston, man. I really do. I think they're tough.
It would go 7 games, I think.
Really? I would love that.
I'd say the Indians just because they have home field. I'm going to be boring. The Indians would win, but it could go either way. I have zero confidence in that pick.
You want to take a look at the NL for a little bit? The Dodgers. I just want to know, like, because they've been like, I kind of compare them to like the Cowboys, like of the MLB. You know, like always like really strong like regular seasons, and then never really getting past like this divisional round or the NLCS, like in the playoffs. We haven't seen them in the World Series, and they haven't been there since like the 90s. So like or they haven't won one since the 80s, I know, but they haven't been there since like the 90s. Yeah. So I compare them to that, but I think this year is different, man. Like these playoffs, Kershaw is probably the best pitcher I've ever seen. And you combine that with just this season, I know like at the end it was a little bumpy like to end the year, but the Dodgers won 52 out of 61 games in a stretch. That is unbelievable. That is like
Yeah.
obscene. That's an obscene stat. Like, yeah, the Dodgers like choke it, like they choke most of the years, but I don't think they've had a team this good. And like they haven't had a team do that in their time, you know. So I really think like the Diamondbacks, man, they're no slouch. They're a good team, and the Dodgers like buried them. The Dodgers buried them, and now they're gonna have to play either the Nationals, the biggest choke artist of all time, where the Dodgers have completely just proved they can beat, or they'll have to play the Cubs, who, in my opinion, they're not what they were last year. I think the pitching's getting a little older. I don't think they're that good. I think they're a good team, but I don't think it's a team that's like overwhelming like last year, where the Dodgers had too much that they couldn't handle it. I think this year, man, I think this is the Dodgers' year to really just go to the World Series. I don't think they'll win when they get there, but I think it's their time, like finally, for the first time in our lifetime, to get to the World Series.
I compare them to the Seattle Mariners from 2001. Pretty good roster, but they overperformed in the regular season. That's the run that they had. It wasn't legitimate. They're a good team. They're not great though. They're not. Their roster isn't unbelievable top to bottom. I don't think they have the best roster in the MLB. They're a good team. It comes down to their pitching. Pitch well. He gave up 4 runs in game 1, albeit a lot of those runs were in his last inning of work. So I think it comes down to their starting rotation. Can they go deep into these games? Can they hold the lead? And I don't know how they'll do. I'm not really sold on this team yet entirely. They beat the Diamondbacks. It's a wild card team. They're good. And I know I just said the Dodgers don't have the best roster, one of the best rosters in the MLB. Still a much better roster than what the Diamondbacks have. So I'm not going to read too much into that sweep. I want to see how they do in the NLCS. They've gotten there before. Will they be able to surpass the Cubs? Will they be able to surpass the Nationals? Obviously, the Nationals have their own problems with going deep into the playoffs. I think we're looking at both series, the NLCS and the ALCS. They're kind of crapshoots. Whatever will happen because they're
in a good way, in a very good way. Yeah,
yeah. It's the MLB is the anti-NBA. There's parity. There's teams that, you know, and it's a different sport. I know, like it's easier. Like any given team can win, you know, any given game. In the MLB, you can't really say the same for other leagues. But when you stack these teams up, it's not like there's clear cut favorites. It's about matchup. It's about that matchup of that given day. Who has a better pitching staff? Who can go deeper into the ball game? Who has clutcher pitching? And you know, the Dodgers have a great staff. Rich Hill, Darvish, Kershaw, all really good pitchers. Will they be able to sustain what they've done in the NLCS? I think that's yet to be seen. Kershaw's had his struggles. Will he be able to pitch on the big stage?
I mean, Darvish was great the other night.
Darvish was very good. As good of a chance as anyone. I'm not like, I hate making predictions with the MLB though. Runaways is dominant in the regular season as they were last year doesn't mean they're not good. They're still a very good team. They win against the Nationals today. There's no reason they can't repeat what they did last season, and it's going to make up for a very good series. I think we're going to have both of these series will go at least 6 games.
Give me Dodgers Astros, man. Give me Dodgers Astros. That's what I think it's going to be. That's what I want. Like that's
another
the series
thing
I want.
If the Yankees do win tonight, they're getting murdered by the Astros. Like, they're getting destroyed. That's the one team that does not belong here, and I think they would get absolutely demolished. Like Luis Severino going against the Astros.
After this, I want you to tweet that.
Oh, I will. I'll tweet that. I can't wait for it.
I'll retweet it.
Please do, and I know someone's probably going to quote tweet it.
Yeah, good.
All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we got a lot to discuss. We kind of burnt through this. We were yelling, screaming at each other before we started recording today about Joel Embiid. So hopefully we have as much fire in this next segment. But first, before we get there, just want to remind you, I have my show Friday night. It's going to be on at about 9:30. UMass Lowell hockey, men's hockey, that is going to be playing on 980 WCAP. Following that game, I'll have my show Pigskin Press Pass covering Merrimack Valley area football, not just Merrimack Valley Conference, the entire area. Be covering that football probably 9:30 to about 11:30, give or take. But it's a great show. You learn more about football in this area. It's good sports talk. It's fun. So make sure you tune in. Again, it's going to be on probably around 9:30, 10 o'clock start time at the conclusion of the UMass Lowell game, which starts at about 7:15. Make sure you tune in. I'll be on with you most of the night covering Merrimack Valley area football. Let's move on, though. We got something else to talk about. John, you're the Sixers fan.
Yeah, man. And we were really heated before. I think that was just me being more closed-minded. And I completely understand all skepticism. Joel Embiid signing the 5-year, $148 million extension, only playing 31 games the first 3 years of his NBA career. And I want to look at it more from an objective stance to see what we're actually dealing with here. Because it's a risky move. It is. But I'm going to look at it everywhere. 31 games. That's not because of Joel Embiid's health fully. That's also because of the team. The 76ers sat him most of last year after January because they wanted to go back into tank mode. Because in January, I think they were 14-5, or the record was something crazy like that. They were 4 games out of a playoff spot. He had a little bit of a knee injury. That was a 2-week injury. They sat him the rest of the year. That's the bulk of those games. Year 2, when he had the foot thing again, the foot surgery, that was a injury that would have sidelined him till about January or so if they really needed him back now and he wasn't playing under a max extension. Year 1, yeah. Entering the draft, he was out for the year. Everyone knew that, but they took that because of the process. It's been a rough few years for Philadelphia, for the Sixers. I think 2014-15, the first year of Okafor in 2015-16 where they were 1-28 with him, yeah, that was brutal, but 14-15, they had 30 different guys be on the hardwood at once. They had the 27-game losing streak that year. That was Nerlens Noel was their most exciting player, and he has no offense. That was when, as a Sixers fan, I was frustrated and I was pissed and I was angry and whatever. And yeah, and Embiid's not playing, whatever. And then the next year, Embiid's out again and Okafor's in, but he has no players around him. And a guy like that relies on a good guard. They're 1-28, stunting his growth. Finally, an exciting thing happens for this organization. As I'm so pissed off the last few years, he gets that deal. He does not gets that deal. He plays, and he's playing under a minutes restriction until January. He doesn't play back-to-back games, being cautious, and he dominates. And he dominates the floor, and he's taking a court of misfits and leading them to an incredible month of January, dominating every aspect of the game, offensively, defensively, doing it all. And then they sat him the rest of the year in January because he had a little bit of an injury, but they were really just worried about getting another top pick, which ended up being the number 5 pick, which turned into 3, which turned into 1. So I think what they're looking at, the Sixers, because they didn't really disclose much about his injuries, is, hey, the reason why he sat the most is because we sat him this much. He's our guy. We know it. We know that we're pretty sure he's healthy. Let's make his extension really complex so that we don't lose so much money if he ends up being hurt every year, if in the case of something awful. But I think that's just what the team's looking at, and they see a guy that they think can be healthy for years to come, and that's why it's extremely risky. But they kind of got themselves a little bit of insurance out of it, but it's a high-risk, high-reward move.
Yeah, I mean, definitely high risk. And obviously high reward. He has the potential to be one of the best big men in the NBA if he can stay healthy. It's a big if. Again, 31 games in 3 seasons. I understand your point that a lot of the reason he was out this past year was precautionary, and it was simply because you wanted to tank. You wanted to get Markelle Fultz. You wanted to get a top 3 pick, which you ended up getting. That's all fine and good and dandy. I'll add dandy into there. But he missed the first 2 seasons. And I don't care if he could have been back in January. Even if that's the case, the previous year, I'm saying. Even if that's the case, he still missed the first year and a half of his career regardless. He was out most of his 3rd season as well. I don't care if it's precautionary. It's not like it's a made-up injury. Like, if he was healthy, he'd be out there. I don't think they would just sit him for no reason. Unless he had a pre-existing injury that was nagging him, or just an injury in general that was nagging him. He's a guy who gets hurt. He's a 7'2" big man who's had troubles with his feet. He's had troubles with his knees. He's had troubles with his back in the past. All those are red flags. If there wasn't the contingency of the injury clause where if he misses a certain amount of games, they can release him without losing a ton of money. This would be a horrible deal. It's not a horrible deal. It's not a good deal though. I think that if you give a guy a max deal when his sample size in the NBA is only 31 games, that's a little bit ridiculous. And that's the reality. His sample size is only 31 games in the NBA, regardless of injury. That's all you've seen from this guy. 31 games in the NBA, you give him a max contract. I think that's a little over the top. And I think that there should be more skepticism with this Sixers front office. They haven't been the portrait of excellence the past 5 years. They've been horrible. They've had times where you don't know what they're doing. And they've lucked out with a few picks. Just because they lucked out with a few good draft picks doesn't mean that calculated thing. Maybe it was, but it doesn't. You shouldn't give them credit for acquiring talented players who were like the unanimous players to select at that point.
Right.
Without Joel Embiid.
But this guy is just. They understand that they really think, based on the opinion of their medical staff, what they've seen, not even just in game, but also in practice, whatever scrimmages, what have you, that this is the guy that they've been doing it for. This is the guy they want to build around. This is what the process has been all about. And they think if they really have an inclination that he's really going to be healthy now, I don't know. I mean, it is risky, and they're giving themselves a little bit of insurance. But at the same time, I think he's too big of a part of this whole plan to just let him walk away. And if they think that he's fine, I think it's not. I don't know. I think it's a really risky move. But I think, they're ready. I think the team's ready.
Was there an ultimatum? Was there like an ultimatum to was Joel Embiid like max deal or nothing?
They probably they didn't want to get into that with him, I think, because the deadline's in a couple days, I know, and they didn't want to have to go into restricted free agency because they could have risked if they would have pissed him off. I don't know but in the NBA, the first 4 years you're under rookie contract, and then after that fourth year you're a restricted free agent, or you can not sign a qualifying offer with any team and just be sign another 1 year deal. So sign that qualifying offer. Then after year 5, you're unrestricted. So maybe they were thinking he could have done that. Maybe they just wanted to lock him up now. I don't know, but they just, he's their guy. He's the guy. They think that he's healthy, and they think that he's gonna be. I don't know. I wish I could say he's healthy, but I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean they would obviously know more than us. They know what his injury situation is. But again, I'm just going to repeat it. He was hurt his 1 year at Kansas. He was hurt his entire first year with the Sixers. He was out the entire second year with the Sixers, and he only played 31 games in his third year with the Sixers. Okay, so four seasons, he's missed the majority of his time.
I understand your skepticism, and I have the same exact skepticism as you do. Don't get me wrong, but put yourself in the Sixers' shoes right now with that skepticism, with you thinking it's a bad deal. Put yourself in these shoes and think, okay, this is the one exciting part of this team for the past 5 years. One exciting part, we look at him, everyone in the league, every single exec looks at him as a once-in-a-generation talent, and you think it's a bad deal. So what, in your opinion, do you think they should do? If you think that he's healthy, if you're the team, the medical staff, you evaluate him, you really think that it's nothing that's going to nag him for long-term, where do you think they should go with it?
You see, I don't think I would. I think if I was a medical expert and I see a guy who has been hurt for the majority of the past 4 seasons, I would probably look at that sample size and say, this guy's injury prone. He's a great player. He's an unbelievable talent. He's not worth a max contract at this point in his career. Maybe give him a 2-season deal or a 1 year deal, a bridge deal, so that you're this is where you prove yourself. This is, if you can stay healthy in this season, we will give you the max deal. We will extend you the max.
He would never take that. I don't think he'd ever take that.
Okay, and then he goes into free agency and he's not getting a max deal with what he's done so far in free agency.
Someone would have paid him.
I don't think so. And you're not getting the same amount of money.
It's tough to say.
As re-signing with the team that drafted you. Yeah, that's where where you're getting potentially the most amount of money.
Right.
So you leave that it would have, if he has confidence in himself that he can stay healthy, you do that, and he does that, and then you move on, and he's a guy that you have for the future, and it works out. And if he gets hurt, it's not on the Sixers. They don't have to deal with his contract. Because guess what? There may be this clause. They're still going to lose out a lot of money on this.
Yeah, you're right.
And I think that's an issue. and it shouldn't be overlooked. And I don't think that we should be thinking the Sixers are the team to trust to make all these great moves. I like maybe they haven't made a ton of mistakes, but they purposely tanked for the past 5 years. And I don't really know anything that they've done where I've been like, wow, that's a great move. Getting Joel Embiid was obviously he's talented and he's good, but again, he's only played 31 games since they drafted him. So, and they signed him to a max deal. He's the most talented guy out of that draft. I'm not saying he's not, probably. Or that was the Wiggins year?
Yeah.
So maybe he's not. But
he has a lot more upside than Andrew Wiggins.
Okay. But he's hurt more than Andrew Wiggins. He's not He doesn't have the availability.
This year is going to show it all for the team. Like, this is the year. Like, this is no more, like, yeah, maybe they'll have a little bit of minutes restrictions, but no more like, okay, yeah, we'll just sit him for the rest of the year to get that top pick. You're paying him extension money, massive extension money. You're not going to have him play 30 games. I think if he plays any less than 45 games, it's a big problem. I think it's a really big problem if he doesn't. If you're giving him all this money and expecting him to really just not be around much, how's a young core supposed to grow? How are you paying this guy $27 million this year to just be, just like on the bench, like just waiting for him to be fine? Like, that's just, he's been through a lot. And also, like, he's been frustrated with the organization because he's wanted to get out there and play and they're not letting him. So maybe this is also just like a token of appreciation for that too. I don't know, but in terms of other moves, I mean, they've got like a young core and he's like the face of it. Markelle Fultz has had problems like right now with a shooting motion. Like he changed it up a little bit. It's really like he's a big concern for me right now. I'm not gonna lie. Ben Simmons has looked exactly what I thought he's gonna be like, and I'm so excited for him. And do you
think Markelle Fultz will be the best player out of this past draft?
I don't know. I don't know what the hell's going on with his jumper. I don't think this year he will be at all. I don't think he's winning Rookie of the Year because whatever's going on with that John. I think it could be Tatum, man. I think if
Alonzo's winning Rookie of the Year, I think Tatum will be the best player out of this draft. From everything I've read and heard from people who know what they're talking about, and the NBA guys, Tatum is one of the most NBA ready prospects in a very long time.
Dude, watching him at Duke, watching Coach K say he's the best pure scorer he's had, watching the few preseason games the Sixers have played the Celtics, or just watching Tatum in Summer League. The guy's fiery. He's a great, exciting young player to have. But back to close up Embiid. I get them signing him. They have a big three, a potential big three. Maybe Fultz isn't. You're a little concerned with him. I haven't seen him play much right now. It's so early. He's 19.
It is, yeah. But they think that they might have a big three if everything pans out. You got to sign up your centerpiece. You got to extend him so that there's some security there for future people to sign. I get that. I just don't know if Embiid's the guy. I don't know if he's someone who can stay healthy and who's available enough to be that guy. And I think there's still a lot to be seen. Maybe he can. Maybe the past 3 years have been fluky. The past 4 years have been a little fluky, and he just had a really bad stretch of injuries. That's absolutely possible. But he's 7'2". He's a big man. I think there are a ton of red flags with the guy. They signed him. They think he's the guy. They have the cap room. Maybe it works out. I hope it does. It'd make the NBA a better place. But I don't know if he's going to be worth it at the end of the day.
And I think, and that's a completely fair criticism to have. Let's take a quick break real quick. I want to remind everyone that you can listen to Bombers football on WICB.org, or if you're in the upstate New York area at 91.7 FM. Ithaca, if they win this week, they clinch at least a bowl berth in the upstate New York Bowl, D3 bowl game, huh? Everyone loves watching that. But this
the
week,
Stag Bowl, baby.
They're on the road at RPI near Albany. Myself and friend of the show, Connor Weingarten, are going to be on the call.
And JJ.
JJ, yes. JJ Klein. So
Beatty will be there with you as well, of course.
So, yeah, just make sure to tune into that. It's going to be a great broadcast. But let's move on here to U.S. soccer and the losing to Trinidad. And a lot of people were upset over that.
Yeah, the people I don't take very seriously were upset about that. Soccer in America is a joke. The best athletes in this country do not play soccer. And I see people saying it's not an athlete problem, it's a skill thing. It's an athlete problem. They're playing hockey, not hockey, they're playing basketball, they're playing football, they're playing baseball. They're not choosing soccer. It's boring. It sucks. It's not a fun sport to watch at all. In my opinion, I hate it. And I know I'm a baseball fan. A lot of people hate baseball. Soccer really sucks in this country.
Yeah, I think so.
And it's never going to go anywhere because they just lost to Trinidad. There's Iceland. I heard this the other day. I think Taylor Twellman was saying on ESPN. Iceland is the size of Corpus Christi, Texas. They made the World Cup. They're the size of a city that most people don't even know exists in this country, and they made the World Cup. That's just the reality. There's other teams that are better at soccer, that are better at developing talent. The United States are not one of those countries. They suck. It's poorly managed. It's poorly marketed sport, and it's boring. It's a boring sport. I'd rather watch women's soccer than men's soccer, and usually it's the opposite for me, at least. I enjoy the NBA over the WNBA. It's because I'm a man. I just relate to it better, I guess. I don't know. I think it's just a better competition personally. I'd rather watch the Women's World Cup than the Men's World Cup, and there's one reason, and it's not skill. I would say the men are probably more skilled, but it's because it's more of just playing. They play. There's not flopping. They're going out there and playing, and it's actually like not bad to watch. I enjoy, and I'm someone who hates soccer. And the World Cup, it's a great event. It's the biggest event in the world for sports. For most Americans, it's just not exciting. It's boring. There's continuous flopping. I know the NBA has it, but it's not even close. So people who make that argument are silly. It's not even close to what it's like in soccer. And you have the United States getting beat by a team that is like 1/100th of the size of our country, probably even less than that. So it's just embarrassing. It's an embarrassing thing. And this is the reason why soccer will never become a major sport in this country, because
I think it's just
that
it's growing here. I think in the U.S. for sure with like the the expansion, like MLS teams too, like with in Atlanta and in LA and that type of stuff. But I think if it was like put it like in our shoes, like replace it with football. Imagine like if the NFL, like soccer was just as big as like the NFL. Like who knows? Like I just grew up watching football, so like I loved it. Like when I was 5, just like watching with my dad, and then like coming into this, like that was huge. What if that was soccer? I feel like I would have had a different appreciation for it.
Yeah.
I would have actually liked it,
Yeah, of course. But
I also never played. I never watched it, so maybe that's why I really just
I played when I was younger. Didn't like it. It wasn't fun. It was like baseball was way more fun. Football was way more fun. I played hockey for a little bit, for like 3 practices. That was even more fun. I don't know. It's just not culturally. It's not a thing here. It's not a thing.
It's the most popular sport in the world, and it's growing, but it's really just hasn't done much for me personally.
And it won't. It won't. For as long as the United States suck, like that's where you're going to get the most fans. And this kind of goes to the NHL Olympics argument. Gary Bettman doesn't want his players playing in the Olympics. That's the dumbest thing ever. The hockey is a regional sport in this country. You need to continue to grow it and continue to get as much exposure as possible. The Olympics is a great way to do that. And for soccer, FIFA, the World Cup is the only way to do that. That's the only time that people in this country pay attention to the sport, and you just missed your 4-year window. You got to wait another 4 years to potentially grow this sport more. It's going to continue to be the same. They just missed it. They blew it. It's as important now as ever. For soccer fans, you should be pissed that they blew an opportunity to grow the sport of soccer in this country, because it's honestly an embarrassment.
Yeah.
All right. Does that do it? Any final thoughts on anything we've talked about, John?
Any final thoughts? I can't wait for the MLB postseason's been great for me personally. Not quite as good as it's been last year, but I can't wait for it.
I'm gonna do non-sports related. I've told you to watch this. Big Mouth on Netflix. One of the funniest shows I've seen in years. If you made it this far into the show, watch Big Mouth on Netflix. It is one of the funniest things I've ever watched. There's one character in it specifically that makes me die laughing. It is hilarious. Watch it. You won't regret it. It's amazing. It's better than Curb Your Enthusiasm this season. I'd say it's better than South Park this season, which is a big thing for me to say. So watch it. It's amazing. All right. That's going to do it. We'll be back same time, same place next week. See you.